tonight, ain't drunk. And
You're listening to the Doug Stanhope Podcast.
Yeah, some texture, some flavor.
That's the best way of putting it, isn't it? Hang on. I've got your burp on this. We'll cut it there and start.
Oh, yeah, just use that as a loop. Yeah, every time you want to edit, just put in the belch.
I'll just put in the belch to cover up any swearing or anything like that.
Swearing.
Well, so I'm going to assume you haven't heard the show, so I'll go from basically it's about your career and how you built an audience and how you built sort of your fan base and what you perceive industry wise, where you are and what you think of it as a whole. So I figured, you okay?
Excuse me if I'm a difficult interview on this kind of stuff, but I'm not trying to be. I might be a cunty, but don't take it personal.
I personally won't take it personally. I don't know if anyone listening might, but that's on them. I figured the best place to start would be when you started out in comedy, how long did it take you to become pro at comedy, and how did you define that?
Well, pro, just like the Olympics is where you get to take off the protective headgear and the oversized gloves. But no, I mean, technically pro is when you first get paid. So I was technically pro in my first ridiculously short amount of time in that. Do you want to move back into the shade?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see the levels. Sorry, man.
Oh.
Completely my fault here. Hang on. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I think it was 6 or 7 months before I went from my first open mic and I moved to Phoenix and got a gig as a house MC at a comedy club that was in a hotel. So I wasn't getting paid, but I was getting a free hotel room. I got to live there, and I would do admin stuff, and then I'd be the house MC, and I'd do comment card shit. But I was living for free. I was a fucking pro. I didn't have to have a job. Like I was, the cook in the kitchen would give me free food here and there, and.
Was that the aim then when you started, just to be able to live off of telling jokes, or was it?
No, the aim was the first open mic is to get laughs. I wasn't a crazy person like someone who goes to karaoke and thinks their fucking rendition of Little Red Corvette is going to be noticed by a big agent. But I just got really lucky at that time, and I fell into stuff. And once I got that house MC gig, then I was working with regular touring comics, even though they were touring the shittiest circuits. They'd go, "Oh, you should work for David Tribble and do these Montana, Wyoming, Eastern Washington gigs." And now I'm getting $125 a night living out of my piece of shit car. And so yeah, I was a pro back then, as far as I was concerned. I didn't.
So was it?
I mean, I wasn't good, but I was going, "Hey, I'm doing this for a living."
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, was it frustrating in a way to see pro acts come through, and you almost did you feel a little bit eclipsed, or did you feel a little bit frustrated that you weren't as good, and yet you were living the same life as it, or you were living a certain?
Well, no, it's the fucking sirens.
So
here high atop the fucking filthy streets of London. No, I always felt, God, I almost wanted to use the word blessed. I was lucky as fuck to, I'm living out of my car, but hey, I get a free hotel when I get to Billings, Montana, and they give me free cheese cubes at the happy hour buffet, and then I get,
Was there, I mean, how many comedians were there around at that time?
Not nearly as many as today. Which is weird because it was still kind of the end of the comedy boom, where there were still network TV shows in primetime that just did stand-up. Again, memory fails you after so many years, but it seems when I started open mics in Vegas, which is, it's this coffin of, like, Vegas gets either really big acts or acts that used to be really big that are now settling to roost to die in Vegas. But as far as an starting in Vegas, the open mic scene was seemingly desolate. And I think I did 6 open mics my second week in stand-up. Like, there were that many rooms going and that few comics. It seemed like there were maybe a dozen comics. And now you go to an open mic and they'll have like 30, 40, 50 guys going up and you get 3 minutes.
So in many ways, when you started, it was kind of the right time in order for you to go pro quickly, because there wasn't much competition. So in your own admission, you didn't have to be that good.
In Vegas, especially in open mics, if I started in LA, I'm sure it would have been a lot more competitive, or any other city, but Vegas specifically, I didn't know any better. Like, it was kind of the best and worst place to start, because when I started, there was no interaction between a professional comedian. Those guys were all on the strip. They don't let fucking the open micers hang out like they do at a comedy club where you can hang out in the back and watch guys. So the open mic lived in a vacuum where you didn't even know. I remember Geechee Guy coming to our open mic night when they tried to make it a pro-am club, and they'd get one act from the Riviera to come between shows, do a quick set as a headliner, and then they'd race him back for his next show. And he had a heckler, and he was this soft-touch version of the joke of, hey, I don't come down to where you work and unplug the Slurpee machine, which is the least caustic version of that bit. But the back of the room fell out. Comics fell out. They'd never heard like that heckler come back because they're so estranged from professional comedy. And then the next week, of course, every open micer had a variation that they didn't really steal because it's different. But that's how little
connection
that you had to professional touring comics. It wasn't until I moved to Phoenix, where I was actually working with touring comics, that I go, oh, you should call this guy, and you'll have to drive 14 hours to the first gig, and it's not going to pay that much. I don't care if it pays. I'm doing this for a living.
Yeah. And now you're at a stage where you can seemingly gig where you like, because you have a big enough fan base. And I suppose when you were starting out, because they weren't coming for you. There's an element of freedom in that, but there's also an element of I suppose, do you feel more accountable now to be entertaining, that people are paying to come see you specifically, than when you were?
Yeah, no. Now all the pressure's on you. Once that's where the worm turned, is when people started coming to see me, and I go, oh shit, I can't have the same act like I used to when I was just a comedian in a comedy club, when people had a free ticket for comedy.
So what were you doing when you were in a club like that?
I remember taking full advantage of that lack of putting any kind of legwork into going to, you bust your ass for 5 days, 10 hours a day, and then you get a coupon for the thing you're going to do on Friday night, and you don't put any research into it. So I would love it when bachelorette parties would show up, someone's fucking anniversary, and they think all comedy is going to be the one guy they saw, Johnny Carson, and they see my act, and I'd relish in walkouts. Like, fuck you. You should have fucking known what you're coming to see. You got to give me the fucking queer eye.
But so now you can research that by going on YouTube or checking out their podcast or whatever it would be.
Well, now the ticket price is enough. No one's going to fucking stumble in off the street. There's no free coupons anymore for comedy for a Doug Stanhope show. So yeah, generally, the only time you get people upset is usually seethingly quiet when they get drugged by their boyfriend or co-worker, and it's definitely not what they wanted to see, but they're outnumbered by a fucking rabble-rousing gang of fucking yahoos.
When you perform for your own audience, there's an element of it where I think you must feel this when you go and see comedians you like, is like you kind of are primed to laugh because you know their style, you know what they're going for and stuff. Do you ever try and perform in clubs or try and perform in rooms that maybe people don't know you in to try and get a better reaction?
No, I know Louis C.K. was a big proponent of that. He would go, a lot of those guys, most of those guys, Attell and Rogan, they go do sets at the Comedy Store, the Comedy Cellar, to whoever's there in a small room to see if this is going to work for a general audience that's not predisposed to love them. And I don't do that. I've worked fucking hard enough to get my small slice of the pie of the fucking lunatic fringe that appreciates me. And I don't want to know that this isn't going to work in a real audience. I'm aware of it, but I don't need to be showing that on a daily basis. I'm not playing to a regular audience. I'm playing to my people, and I have enough. I don't need to broaden my fan base.
Well, when did you start thinking I need to generate my own base of people? Like, what point did you start? And also, how did you start like communicating with them? What was on offer then?
Well, Al Gore invented the internet. He gave me a Hotmail address.
You're still on Hotmail?
Yeah, someone built me a website and got a mailing list, so I would, hey, we loved you in fucking Portland, and then I'd put them in a folder for Portland, and then I realized I don't have to do that shit comedy club where it's like a TGI Comedies where they look at the comment cards the next day. The fucking owner wasn't even at the show, but you got some bad comment cards. I don't give a fuck. I realized I'm playing for shit money, a small percentage in his room, but if I got just the actual fans, if I'm doing 8 shows in a week for that asshole, and in every show there's 5 or 10 people that are actually there to see me, I can get all those people for one night for the same money in a bar. I get the door, and we started doing that, and I, sloppily, cobble together a mailing list. I was never a good business guy, but I could, put them in a Hotmail folder and go, okay, Portland, email everyone there and say you're coming to Dante's.
So how did you find those people though? Like, because you must have done the gigs in those cities in order to find them in that city.
Well, they'd communicate with me. They'd send me an email and say, hey, we loved you, or hey, we saw you're playing, can't wait to see you again.
So this was a time when this wasn't social media time.
No, this is just straight off your contact page on your website. And
how is social media now made? I assume that's made that a lot easier.
Well, then MySpace is another game changer. I fucking miss MySpace.
Really?
MySpace was great.
What was the plus point? Because I'm more of a Twitter fan, if I'm honest.
Now I am.
Yeah.
I still fucking loathe Facebook, but that's what everyone's on. But everyone was on. There's a lot of little things. Like you could look up people by their interests, by zip code. So if I'm playing Bismarck, North Dakota, put in a Bismarck. And who are the smoker, drinker, have interests in this and this, and then you could look them up and invite them to be your friend, and then they go, who wants to be my friend? Oh, it's a comic. Oh, he happens to be coming here.
And it just works out easier for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was simple. You could blog on it. Like, I still don't know my website now. I have a guy run it. I don't blog anymore because no one fucking reads them because of Facebook and Twitter.
Is that why you moved to doing a podcast? Is that?
Well, yeah, that was the next progression.
And how? Well, I mean, if we stick with like Twitter and places like that at the moment, how do you deal? Because obviously you're in many ways, it appears, at least from the outside, trying to kind of keep to your bubble, like keep to your audience and keep to your cocoon. But obviously social media allows people who don't like you to tell you that. Like, how do you deal with...
Yeah, that's why another reason I like Twitter is it's easier to deal with the shitheads. First of all, they're less likely to be on there. When Facebook, what I remember, like, you'd post something and then you'd have a million idiots chiming in. And if they're shitting on you, then the thread goes off and there's replies to the other replies, but that are no longer connected to the... It's just too confusing. Twitter, someone goes, hey, fuck you, you stink. I just hit retweet, and then my fans do all the fighting for me.
That's a good base you have there.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty strong.
Yeah, and almost cult-like. I've heard Brian refer to you as two people who are just trying to build a cult. And I suppose I wondered how you see your fans and how you see. Do you just look at it as they're kind of? I mean, because you've got quite a good relationship with them, and you're really empathetic towards them. So what do you view? How do you view them as a base?
The self-deprecating thing, it's honest, is I don't get it. I don't think I'd really laugh at my act.
Really?
I know we get a lot of unwell people, a lot of angry suicidal. You know, I'm sure I get more fan mail. I hate the expression, but like, hey, you kept me alive when I was going to do the bad thing kind of emails than I'm sure most comics get. And I appreciate that whatever hatred I'm selling is cathartic. And there's also ones that you go, this person just doesn't get it. They're just hearing words and they...
Do you think you're a good comic then? Do you like the compliments? Because you're quite self-deprecating, and I imagine that none of that penetrates through that. So I wondered if it frustrates you to get a compliment or get a nice email or... I
ignore the nice ones. I mean, that's kind of a comedy cliche as you focus on the person that isn't laughing. And
I always see that in the audience. There's one person who's there and you're just like, I need to either make you laugh or the night is going to be shit.
Yeah.
I suppose we'd like...
And I don't even care about making them laugh. I just hate them for being there.
But I suppose the bigger the audience, the more likely that there's going to be a percentage of come who don't like you or don't know what you do.
Yeah, but the bigger the audience, the less you can see them.
That's true.
Which I don't like. That's why if the money were all the same, I'd play small rooms where you can control every corner and you can see every person that's there, not necessarily brightly lit, but if I hear someone yelling shit from the back row, I can see the back row. You're in a, like, you play the fucking Hammersmith and some guy's trying to have a conversation with you from the balcony and he's yelling so loud that you can't tell if it's malicious.
Yeah.
And the accent is weird and you don't know what they're saying, and they might, more often than not, they're yelling things they think are, like, they're usually on my side at this point. Or they're yelling an old bit or just some factoid they heard on the podcast to let you know that, hey, we listen to the podcast, but you're not helping still, so just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, totally. So how do you try out new material then? Do you just do it in smaller rooms to the audience?
No, I do. Any new material I have, it's probably going to be the first thing out of my mouth. I'll front load a set with any kind of new shit.
Because you've got quite a big burn rate as well, because you, as I've heard you say before, that you get, and I can empathise massively, bored of telling a joke after a certain amount of times.
Yeah.
Because it's like...
How can you not?
I've got a friend who's been doing the same set for about 20 years, and it's just because it sells, and he goes around and he likes his life. He just goes around the circuit doing it.
I always envied those guys.
I couldn't imagine doing that. It would drive me insane.
I can't imagine an audience that goes, oh, I can't wait to hear him do that fucking joke 20 years in a row. It never gets old.
I suppose it's not he's doing the clubs. So,
and those are the guys that I there's an envy to being able to be okay with that. Like a guy that could just go out, hey, I'm going to do, and here's the Jiffy Jeff, the football player character that I do.
So what's the drive then for you then? Is it just to be funny now? Is it money motivated? Is it just to keep the fans happy? Like,
I wouldn't do this for free. I'm not one of those comedians where you go, just making an audience laugh, or or just like the guys I was talking about that go to the comedy store to workout rooms for nothing, just to do comedy. Fucking Attell couldn't ever go to a town without doing comedy. He couldn't take a vacation.
Oh, yeah, I understand. I struggle with that quite a bit as well. Generally, if I'm going away for a weekend, I will see if there's a club to just jump on, like, or do something, because it's, why not, you know? But I just wondered what gets you out of bed, because at the moment you've just done some new books, and you've obviously you're coming over here to do like European stuff as well. So what gets you out of bed? What excites you now? Because I feel like at a certain stage when you have an audience,
the thought of quitting drives me. If I can just get through this UK tour and then do the 2 markets I haven't worked in the States, LA, New York, they're scheduled, and then I can just take the rest of my life off until I think, all right, that could be a bit. All right, this is, if I add that, I never recorded that could be an hour. All right, we can go to some shit towns and see what we got.
Fair enough.
But the idea of never having to do this again, that's a driving force.
Is that why you've started, or you've written books recently? Because it's kind of more insular and you just let it out into the world and you don't have to travel and do a book
Yeah,
tour?
but there's no
anything?
money in books.
There's no money in there?
Yeah, I did the first one just because I was offered and could have decent offer, and everyone wants to write a book.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do anything until I cash a check, and now I'm beholden.
Yeah, to the contract.
Yeah, I would never write a book and then try to sell it.
Yeah, it's once I've got a deadline, I'm much more motivated to do stuff.
Yeah, I need a deadline.
Yeah, totally. So is it a case of like Brian says to you, "Oh, by the way, you've got a show in a month, and it's billed as the new show, not this one," and then you've just got to?
Oh no, we discuss it.
Okay.
Right now. He's on red alert for I'm not doing this anymore. I mean, this whole last this is international. We did Southeast Asia, and then we did Australia, and then Canada, and then 2 days off to the UK and Ireland and Amsterdam, and just the whole process of like getting visas, and then I have to drive to some fucking place and get microchipped and fucking scanned and fingerprinted just to get a visa. Like
You don't want to do it.
It's just a pain in the ass.
So would you just retire, or you would do it?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a million things I could do. I could make my podcast a lot more professional. Put all that time and energy that I spend fucking lunking bags across borders, and hey, let's write some fucking funny shit and some fake commercials, and let's make this podcast into something. We have an idea for another book we have to do together, like about our whole business model. We none of them pay as well as comedy, and they're a lot more work, except for starting that new hour. Like, all right, I like the set that I have right now, and I've played it to almost every English-speaking place I could bring it, and it's gonna fucking die after this. And then it's that threat of writing a new hour. It's almost easier to write a book.
When you start writing a new hour, what does it start with an idea, or does it start with one joke and then you build out from there? What's the process?
Well, generally, after you've recorded something, you still have, like right now, I have probably 15 minutes of bullshit about stuff that's happened on these last few tours.
Yeah, just didn't fit in the show. Yeah.
Well, it's in the show now because it has to be, because I get so fucking sick of the other stuff. But when I go to record it, I'll go back and do stuff I've dropped that I'm sick of.
A set piece for the record.
Yeah. And then I'll save that. All right. I know I can't use this in Canada and the UK because I've already used it there, but I can start over in the States. But it's usually you have more of that, and now I've been, because of the last book and other things that have come up in life, I've been dragging this set. This has been cobbled together over, some of it's probably 3 years old.
When I'm just gonna think about how to phrase it, because you strike me as someone who likes performing, but maybe it's like. It's because I've heard you say in interviews before where you write it in so it looks like it's off the cuff, whereas a lot of other performers and a big bugbear of when I'm performing is I feel sometimes I'm over rehearsed, or I feel like I've gone over it too many times. So I'm wondering whether you like the process of putting together bits more than going around with it.
Well, I like it when it comes together on its own. Like half of it sounds like it's off the top of my head because I'm trying to remember. Fuck, what am I missing in this? I know there's another beat to this that I like, that I riffed last night. Before, Bingo used to come on the road with me all the time, and she knows my act. So every night when I'd say something new, she'd take copious notes. So, because listening to yourself is so difficult. So it was so much easier you said this and it was really funny, and I've never heard you say that before. And you're like, all right, fucking noted, got it. I like that too. Or, no, I say that every night. What are you, fucking retarded?
You've been listening the last 12 weeks. So do you think your memory's starting to fail you then in many ways, or is it like?
Well, yeah, it's just like any fucking computer. You only have so many gigabytes of. my memory fails me, and I perform drunk. Like, that's how I can
mediate that.
Pull off. All right, hey, if I have 4 or 5 cocktails first, then I don't loathe these words so much. And I won't be staring at someone looking at their watch saying that's a sign of boredom. Maybe I did this bit before. That voice goes away, that voice of failure. And then you just sell the bits and, come up with new tags. And
how, this is like an odd question to quantify, but how drunk do you have to be before you want to go on? Because I'm assuming there's a certain level between blackout and just tipsy, or that you have to kind of get to.
Well, I've also been drinking nightly for 30 years, so what you would consider very drunk, I would go, all right.
That's a Monday.
Now I'm on a nice plane here. I don't get,
So there's no like lineup of drinks before you go on that you do, or is it like the same cocktails every time?
No, it is roughly, at this point, if I drink 15 drinks in a night, I'm still fine. But I got to get to that place where I'm not just second guessing everything, where I'm actually in the moment.
Yeah.
Blots out all those voices in your head that you think you're hearing from someone's, some twist of their countenance makes you think, oh, they hate me. I don't see that anymore.
So it's for you, it's you have to, and I understand the whole being in the moment thing, because it's frustrating sometimes when, like I said, being over rehearsed, you're not in the moment, you're just remembering lines, and that can make the job a job rather than an enjoyable performance. So is there anything else that
I actually wrote about that in the last book, that there's no recipe. Sometimes you write and you get all your segues perfect, and you really do put that kind of effort into it, but you're not counting on the waitress dropping a tray of drinks in that couple's lap, and then you're so into what you memorized that day that you can't come out of it, and when you do, you're fucked. And where was I? So
is there, because you've taken drugs before and stuff, do you ever go on stage on another form of intoxication, or is it only
not
alcohol?
anymore? I never do drugs. I do drugs as prescribed now. Like I take Xanax to sleep.
Is your only, because obviously it's for social anxiety as well as being in the moment, are there any other worries about, obviously if you're thinking about stopping, they're probably mediating now just because you're thinking, well, I've only got 4 shows left or something. But in the past, have you ever worried about booking a certain venue in a city you've never been to and not selling it, or having to travel there?
No, I don't. That's Brian's job. He worries about tickets. I don't give a shit.
You don't mind if no one, it's not it obviously that's a pain in the arse if that happens, but I'm assuming it's not happened for a while.
Well, no, especially in the States, we do a shit-town tour, a place I've never played. I'll play, a 900-seater, full to the rafters, and then the next night you're playing to 85 people in some roadhouse. And, I don't mind either way.
Do you feel more comfortable in sort of the quote-unquote shittier venues than sort of the big prestige? What about that? Is it just...
Again, it's easier to control a small room if they are going to get out of control. I don't get... I get hecklers that are just too drunk. Like they start drinking at 2:00 in the afternoon for a fucking 9 p.m. show, and they just try to have conversations with you, and I know I'm conversational on stage, but it's a one-sided, it's like a coke talk conversation. I'm the cokehead. I'm doing all the talking. You do all the listening.
Yeah.
And then it's very, very rarely that it's confrontational, other than, listen, dude, you got to shut the fuck up, and you're probably going to have to leave because you're beyond the point where you can't convince yourself to not be shit-faced.
Yeah.
And I can quiet you down for 5 minutes and you're going to forget. So why don't you just throw yourself out? And that works a lot of the time.
I'm sure it does. In terms of TV, and exposure to that sort of stuff. I mean, over here, one of the bigger things you did was Charlie Brooker's screenwriting.
Great editors.
He's amazing. Yeah,
but I'm saying, if you saw the uncut version, those rants sitting on a fucking airplane.
Well, did you just sit there and edit it and send it over to them, and then
they'd come over with a producer and a cameraman and get a local sound guy, and I fucked that up. Let's try it again, and then I'd do it. And I'm not a one take kind of guy.
So what was that? Did that help your status over here?
Yeah, it's huge.
What did it mean? You could tour over here?
I'm still touring over here, but smaller venues, and now because of it, I have a lot more people who know who I am.
What made you? Did he offer? I mean, have you been offered other stuff that you've turned down in that area, or was it like you just know Chaille and it was like, oh, I know he'll produce a good show, I like it. What made you pick that?
And it was easy. They came to me and a skeleton crew, and we sit there and drink beer on that Bisbee Airport runway, and I just yell for a while. And I mean, we're not filling that much time, and the BBC. It's 6 episodes a year or something like. So we knocked that out in a couple of days, and then drank all night and hit it again.
Yeah, you've talked a lot about Bisbee and your fondness for the area and for the compound as well. Like how that's always really interested me. In do you see it as a home, like a social experiment, like how do you view?
No, it's home,
okay.
And I love being there. I never sit at home going, fuck, I need to be on the road. I mean, I do get itchy feet where I'm going somewhere, but it's not to do comedy. Let's hit a beach. Let's do something. Let's fly around.
Yeah, it feels, as I was saying before with the whole thing that Brian and I did a few years ago, the Smallest Beautiful thing, where we were talking about scaling down to build up kind of thing. It feels like that's kind of what you've done with your personal life as well, with that, where you've sort of moved away from the hubs of comedy that are New York and LA and over there, and sort of gone, I'm just going to do what I want to do rather than try and play your game.
Yeah, I did some TV when I lived in LA and fucking hated it, and it's so much more work for such little payoff. We just spent how long to, if I spent that, I'm a stand-up comic. We could do whatever the fuck we want. I go on, I could go up tonight and just eat shit, try something completely fucking new, which I don't normally, but I could, and if they don't like it, fuck them. It was an hour of my night.
An hour of their life.
Yeah. Have a couple of cocktails, take a Xanax, sleep it off, and do something else the next night. Try to overcompensate. But there's no one telling you what to do. TV is so fucking brutal like that.
I suppose that's and again that ties into social media and podcasting, where you can just put out whatever you want, and there's a freedom to that I suppose I mean, how if you had to give a bit of advice for someone who was maybe hesitant to start their own podcast or their own social media or do their own fan base rather than maybe chasing an agent or TV, what would you say?
Well, trust me, the funniest guys in this business are not in the business of it. I fuck Facebook. Well, if people are how are people gonna know where you're playing? If they like you gotta have some business acumen. I'm against social media. Fuck Twitter. Okay, then fucking languish in obscurity. I'm not gonna be able to fucking help you. I've brought 1 million of the funniest guys I know on the road, and almost none of them do their own legwork. Hey, can you post? I'm playing Peoria. Will you post the dates on your thing? And I go, okay, and then I go to their social media to find out the dates to repost, and they haven't posted it at all. It's like, what? Fuck you.
Yeah. It's show business. It's 50-50. You got to put some effort. I mean, you did an Edinburgh Festival, and Brian brought you over for that, and that for us over here is the be-all and end-all of the industry. And I suppose, how was that as an experience for you? Well,
it's a terrible experience in that
Sorry.
First of all, I hate
agree.
crowds and shit, but how the industry abuses the artists there, that whole "oh my soul to the company store" shit, where everyone loses money, but not the suits. The suits are fucking making there's a shitload of money there, and how come the comics aren't making it? So I would never do that again.
So, because you won an award as well.
Yeah, they made up an award for me, but an award is still someone's opinion.
Yeah.
If you accept the award and go, hey, I'm great, you also would have to accept the email that says you suck and go, oh, I just lost my award because someone else disagrees.
So the awards don't mean or have never meant anything to you, or you?
I mean, it's nice to get, but you have to understand that's just someone else's opinion.
Totally. Do you think you're a good comedian now then?
I would if comics were voting on comics and no one else was involved. Someone invited me to it was an upstart. I don't even know what it was called. Hey, you've been nominated to get the George Carlin Freedom of Speech Award for some comedy, not Hall of Fame, but something like that. And I looked him up, and it was like the first year of it, and they had like no web presence. Like, you're giving away awards to people to try to make your award, worth something.
Yeah. There is that in Edinburgh where you feel sometimes like the award is more trying to boost the brand, like the sponsors it, rather than the comedians that are doing it.
Right, they're using the comedians to bring attention to their brand.
Yeah. And I mean, because there's been a real shift in the last few years of like journalists not covering comedy as much, and reviewers covering it still, but it's still, I feel like there's and it's just shifted in a weird way, especially with online, with everyone having a blog and everyone having a review. So has it made it matter less to you because everyone's now got an opinion and everyone's sort of...
Well, I haven't won any awards recently, so it doesn't really come into play. I don't read press. If it's something Brian thinks I'll be excited about, he'll show it to me, but I don't Google myself.
So you don't have... It's kind of nice and refreshing because you don't really seem to have an ego in the same way that I feel like some performers over here do, in that they want to play the biggest venue or the maybe the awards isn't the main thing, but they have
that never ends though. I still, when I go back to LA and you see people that are still, they need to get to that next step to, like, I don't even want to do a set. I just want to hang out and drink and talk about shit. I'm working on this, and I've never had a strong work ethic. I'm easy for me to hang on my laurels.
I was gonna kind of debate whether you have a strong work ethic or not, but I've heard you in other podcasts, every time someone tries to tell you have a strong work ethic, come back at them with a negative point about your work and or how it's come about. So I feel
I have a work ethic for what I do. I'm not going to come back to the same city, 2 years later doing the same material. But that's fear based. That's not. They deserve better than this. If I could get away with it, I probably would. But it sickens me to hear the fucking jokes that many times. But I mean, I'm not ambitious. I don't work on scripts in my off time. I don't have a project I'm pushing, a TV show I'm pitching.
Is that because you? Is there an element of you that thinks, well, my audience want to see me live, they wouldn't want to see a TV script that I've made, or they wouldn't want to...
No, the impetus is I want to enjoy my time. I don't... If I have a night free, I'm not working on a script. If I could hang around and watch, I could play off hockey with my friends and get hammered. I'd rather do that.
How has that always been the case, or is it a case of, like, as you've gotten older, you've, like, time's more important to spend with friends and stuff?
I'm sure everything's got something to do with getting older.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always been a sloth and a drunk. It used to be just chasing pussy after a show. I don't see last call at bars anymore because not chasing, which was actually when that turned and there was like no more threat of pussy after the show. It really,
calms you down.
It calms you down
because
you're not getting in as much trouble, but you have less fun stories because it's usually that doing coke or chasing chicks and winding up in a strange place. That's where your fun stories come from. But I have enough of those stories, and they're not fun anymore, and they hurt for too long.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure every, let's say, heterosexual guy has a story about trying to impress a girl that they're embarrassed about that is funny. It's just a case, isn't it? So, do you think if you stopped performing, you'd stop drinking then, or smoking?
If I were to stop drinking, I would stop doing comedy. But not necessarily the other way around. That's one of the problems, is when I do take months off, there's no reason to stay sober until showtime.
Makes sense. So
start drinking at 11:30 in the morning. Hey, it's World Cup from Russia. Fucking games are starting at 5 a.m. Let's go to bed at fucking 9. Let's reconvene here at the bar at 5 a.m. and start getting shit-faced.
It's always drink o'clock at the compound.
Yeah.
And I just... Because to me it feels like the two are intrinsically linked for you. And as a result, if one ended, the other one would as well. And so you might pursue other things, or you might have a different outlook if that shift happened. Like you might go, maybe I will work on something because you've got free time.
I've taken spells off of drinking. All right, I fucking my booze shakes are getting too bad. I'm gonna lock myself up for a couple of weeks, and watch Netflix, and not get out of bed, and not see anyone. I realize there's so many situations where I fucking, so-and-so stopping by at 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't have any social skills till I start drinking. I'm going to start drinking at 1, and then I'm going to just keep going. And you know what? You should avoid all these situations where you have to drink to be able to tolerate that situation.
Do you genuinely think you don't have social skills without drinking? Or because if they're your friends and like family or whatever who are coming round, surely they'll just be okay with who you are.
Yeah, well, you have those friends, and then you have other people that you know that you have to talk to. I mean, when you have friends that you can say nothing around for hours, and they're doing their own thing, and you know they don't need
entertaining.
Yeah. Then that's fine. But there's a handful of those, and there's a bigger handful that just stop by.
When you take time off, then do you ever worry that you'll lose your slice of the pie as such, or your fan base, or some of them will forget you, or have spent their allocation for tickets and things on someone else, or?
No, I used to worry about that, but I live within my means.
Right.
So yeah, if those people drop off, I can afford the loss.
How many people do you like? Because there's that 1,000 fans theory that a lot of people band around, where they, if you can just get them to give you, I think it's like $50 or whatever, then you can make a living. Like, how is it a case of, in many ways, you'd like to email people and go, just you come, don't bring your boyfriend, don't bring your partner, just we want to keep it as small as possible.
I get that a lot. I get emails. I'm coming to see you in Charlotte. Bringing the wife, she's gonna fucking hate it. Don't bring her. Like, how bad of a relationship are you in that you have to go everywhere together?
Yeah.
Like, let her go to the fucking opera she wants to go to, and you go to the comedy club. Or the other one that I fucking get what you do, man. I try to turn my friends on to you, and they fucking hate you, but I get it. You go, that's not really a compliment. You just told me 7 people hate me for every 1.
Yeah, like that's a bad ratio.
Yeah, but they think it's a compliment. Okay.
But do you think that's because of the base of people that you attract? There's kind of this we get it, they don't vibe. So there's kind of in their mind A badge of honor.
It's like a Jeopardy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I knew that answer.
Yeah.
It's a tough question. I got it.
But I suppose that's the double-edged sword of the way you do this.
Double-edged sword. Can we pause this?
Yeah, sure.
Just pause it for a second.
BlueApron.com. What else do we have to tell you repeatedly? They send gourmet meals right to your goddamn door, and you have to shuffle out in your slippers and pick up a gourmet meal where they tell you everything that you have to do to prepare a meal for your loved one and act like you can cook. You don't have to know how to cook. They spell it out for you. It's simple and it's gorgeous and it makes you look like you're some kind of gourmet. Chaille, tell them about Blue Apron.
Well, they're not really telling you what to do. You're going in this willingly. It's not like there's a crossbow at your chest.
They tell you how.
Pick up the cumin. It's an 8.5 by 11 recipe card. It's all right there. On one side, just explains what it is, and on the other side, gives you pictures and tells you step by step what to do and how to do it.
Yeah, but it sounds like you're cooking something really fantastic where you're just actually reading off an 8 by 11 card.
Yes.
I have watched Greg Chaille cook a Blue Apron hammered, and he just keeps squinting with his readers. He looks at the card, and he goes and does it. And it was the most amazing meal ever. And
fantastic.
I went, he could not be a busboy at a restaurant that serves this meal. And yet he's still prepared.
And yet I'm the one that the restaurant is built around. That was fun that night. I totally remember that. And I'll tell you what, thank God for the fucking pictures on that thing. Because at some point I'm squinting and covering one eye and I'm going, oh, it's the blue thing with the little rippy top.
Yeah, don't think you have to be able to read English to do this. They give you photographs like an Asian restaurant.
And they give you 12 recipes a week, which you can pick 2, 3, or 4, depending on your schedule. I don't know how often you eat. I don't know if you have an eating disorder. Not my business. Not my problem. But yeah, you can get between 2 and 4 recipes a week.
Depending on the plan you get. Yeah.
And they'll ship it right to your door. They drop it inside my fence.
But the amount of food you get, too, is more than...
But it ends up that we end up having a lot of people here sometimes. So like yesterday, I did the poblano chilies stuffed with the couscous.
Yeah.
And I just put the whole thing out there. And, if you're hungry, grab some.
8 people all got something to eat.
And they're all homeless people that are now lined up outside our door.
Well, Blue Apron homeless.
Blue Apron homeless. All right, Chaille, what's coming up this month? While I'm in England where they have fucking awful food and I'll be wishing for Blue Apron.
I think they did this on purpose because they knew where you were going. Creamy caramelized onion burgers with apple and pickled pepper salad, roasted chicken drumsticks and cauliflower with orzo, feta cheese, and olives, and spicy penne pasta with zucchini and capers.
That's not a caper. It's a rat turd. Name the movie. Do you know the answer?
Home Alone.
No, it was the remake, the good remake of Donald Sutherland and the Pod People. Come on, Jesus. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. He's a fucking health inspector, and they're going, that is a caper. He's like, that's a rat turd. There are no rat turds in Blue Apron. They're just capers.
I can't put this in the commercial.
Yes, you can. I just made it okay.
All right.
Jesus. Fucking Chaille's so touchy. So, check out this week's menu. Get your first 3 meals free at blueapron.com/Stanhope. That's blueapron.com/Stanhope in case did I stutter or do your ears overlap? Remember that old canard? Get your first 3 meals free. Blue Apron. It's a better way to cook.
And we're back. Had to pour a cocktail.
What'd you have?
Vodka soda, splash grapefruit.
Nice. Sounds cool.
You don't drink, I assume?
I do. It's kind of weird. I used to drink when I didn't like myself, and then I stopped, and then I liked myself, and then I started drinking again a bit. And then I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll drink only on dates that are going well or badly, because then, you know what I mean? Like, they're the only two situations that you either want to be a bit freer, or you want to just have gone home, but you can't because social, whatever. And now I kind of do, but only when I'm like on a night. Like, I don't know. And also, full disclosure, I'm taking my mum out tonight for her birthday. So
nice.
I don't want to any drink prior to that. We don't have the relationship for that. So
fair enough.
Yeah. But no, I appreciate because I picked something up on the way here, so it's all good. But I've forgotten where we were.
Have you seen? Well, it's something about a double-edged sword and deconstructing comedy and.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's it. It's a double-edged sword of you've forged a path in a way that means that people who get it come die hard, like they love it, and so I suppose they like.
Hang on, here they come.
The police are not coming to your gigs.
No, that's one of my fans being rushed to an emergency room.
I was gonna say,
he started drinking today for tomorrow's show.
That's an ambulance right there. Hang on.
Do you get John Oliver a lot?
John Oliver?
Yes.
In what? As in, do I get his stuff?
No, do you look like him?
Oh, do no, I don't, but thank you.
You look like an authentic. You come across as an authentic John Oliver, where John Oliver himself acts like he listening to that guy say the word fuck over and over again. Like, you would never say fuck. They're forcing you to say this because you're on. You're on HBO.
Yeah.
Fuck. You're like, you're a geek act.
I tell you what frustrates. So I really like his show, but he always shows a clip and then goes, "Holy fuck!" And you're like, "Let me react the way I want to react." Like, it's like in advertising where they always go, "Oh, amazing," and you're like, "No, you just tell me what the thing is, and I'll tell you whether I like it. I don't need you to tell me how to feel, because frankly, you have no feelings. You're in advertising. That is not your area." So I'll take that. I'll take it to the bank. I'm gonna put that on some sort of poster. An authentic John Oliver, yes. Doug Stanhope. But
you're starting to look like Judd Nelson in The Dark Backward.
Oh, I've not seen that.
Yeah, no.
I'll just look in the mirror. Like, I don't.
Very few people have seen that, and it's a really dark, like Repo Man style of dark weird, but it's a stand-up comedy movie, kinda.
Is it like a joke movie, or is it a movie about comedy?
You have to see it. There's no way to explain it. It's fucking weird.
What do you watch many movies? Are you into film?
No, this is something. It was like on the cult shelf back in the VHS days, and they'd have the cult movies. It would be next to Eraserhead and Repo Man, that kind of weird dark film.
Yeah. Do you use like the internet to discover new things like that, or like talent or comedy or?
No, but I remember the days where you'd go on the internet to like find new shit, and now it's just a pile of dirty dishes. It's unanswered emails, and it's fucking tweets you didn't get back to, and DMs, and I have my one news site that I go to, but I never find new shit.
I find if you work hard enough, you can find some good stuff, especially on YouTube. I think YouTube is like properly turning into quite a creative hub at the moment, but I feel like...
Yeah, I watch fucking like street fights, and that goes into murder videos, and you could kicked in the balls and...
Well, it depends. That's the problem. It depends on what keywords you're using. Like,
you get on something you like.
Yeah.
What's the one with the Darwin? I follow them on Twitter.
Oh. Is it the fake
Darwin Awards? It's just people fucking up. It's basically Tosh.0 rapid fire.
Yeah, and you don't have to.
But then that leads you into something else, and I'm not watching anything smart. I hate people send you, hey, you should watch this 40-minute documentary. What's it called, on Netflix or something? No, it's on YouTube. Well, I don't want to watch something on a fucking laptop for that long. I like big screens. It's a weird thing.
So is it, you mean like as in the screens?
Watching movies. Would you see people like on a plane watching a movie on a cell phone?
That's ridiculous. How
do you fucking do that?
Well, I'll do it if I have to. Like that's my sort of line on it. But to me, it's sort of pissing on the... This is the thing is, the internet's been great, and it's leveled out all the stuff and all that plus points. But my problem with it is like, so a lot of TV just goes straight on the internet afterwards, and I don't feel like channels are appreciating that we're watching that differently. And we're consuming it in a way that, you know, like I'm sat like here, like next to the screen watching that, whereas the TV's like on the wall, and I'm, you know, because I don't know, my mum told me never to sit near the TV or whatever, so I don't want to have square eyes. But on the computer, I'll never get square eyes, so it's fine.
That's very funny.
But it's just a weird thing that like you don't take into account how people are consuming stuff. So. And there's a lot of care that goes into stuff. I mean, when you make like your last special and stuff, and this is another thing I was talking about with Brian at the event we did. He was talking about how it was just you and him and a skeleton crew who just recorded it, so it was like authentically what you wanted, rather than, you know, when you have to produce it for Netflix or whatever. Where I'll tell you the thing I hate about Netflix, right? Every joke lands. I've never seen a single joke die in any special ever, and it's like, really, not one joke died.
And I hate that they film them in front of 2,000-seat audiences, where I know a lot of these comics thrive in a small room. Jim Norton, his fucking like the audience applauding at the cue of the warm-up guy that went out, applauded everything, and like I can see where you're killing his timing. Like he's a rapid fire, and you don't know where the punchline is, so you just start clapping, and it probably fucked up half his joke.
Yeah,
and I cut out. Now I've learned, I just cut out there's no, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage. I just fucking cut to whatever intro, me from a park, right into the first bit that I have. Because I'll go out and I'll address the elephants in the room and listen, there's fucking cameras. If I fuck something up, I'll do it again. You'll pretend to laugh. And you have a funny shirt, and when there's so-and-so, and address all the...
That was so I can't remember what special it was, but Louis C.K. did a special where he just came out from the side, they weren't applauding, and he just went, house lights down, just start, we're starting, I'll do all the announcements. And ever since watching that, I've just gone, yeah, why do we have to ramp it up so much? Like it's just someone standing there telling jokes. It's not...
I get so, like... Again, the short attention span that we have. Yeah. Just having to listen to the audience applaud for fucking 9 seconds while they do the, thank you, thank you. Cut that out.
I've done nothing. Like, I've not earned that. I don't feel like it's, you know, yes.
Get to the point.
Get to the punchline.
Yes.
Is more to the point, man. So you wouldn't, I'm assuming you would sell stuff to Netflix. I mean, you've obviously got some stuff on there now. I mean, is it? Do they get any creative control over stuff when you sell that to them, or is it a case of you go, I've got this, do you want it?
From what I hear, they're very mysterious. They're the Illuminati. Like, hey, who's your contact at Netflix? Don't have one. They get a hold of someone, and no one knows who's in charge.
Send a crow, and
yeah, it's just fucking the Bilderberg group.
Yeah. I don't know how they operate, because I'm trying to get them on this for a while, and like every time I talk to someone, they go, we don't have a contact, and you're like, but you've sold like 4. How did you do that then? Because there's no upload button like YouTube, I'll tell you that. So yeah, but I mean, do you watch? Do you have a Netflix? Do you bother with it then, or is it just quite frustrating?
I'm really bad, like smash things that when they don't work bad, and fucking Netflix always it's. You're not connecting, and like, what the fuck? And then I have to call Chaille, and so if I get it working, I'll get on a Jag if I have time off, which it seems there's less and less. Yeah, I'll go on a Netflix Jag, but as soon as I get that screen, or it starts fucking buffering or fucking rebooting itself, like, fuck this.
You just spend
a goddamn DVD. They worked.
Yeah. So we were talking before about your fan base and your connection to the fan base, and I suppose because you've been doing that, adding them to a mailing list and emailing them directly for so long, there's that connection. But like you said, also you get a lot of I don't want to say, because they're your fans, so you could probably say this in a more endearingly nice way. But like you said, some people who have mental health issues, and there's a base there, and I wondered what responsibility, if any, you feel for looking after them or for caring about.
It's not my responsibility. If I read my emails, but I just usually folder them. If it's not something that needs to be addressed, I don't, because the problem is, hey, I just want to say you're my favorite comic and you got me through tough. once you write back, hey, thank you very much, they think that's the beginning of a friendship.
Right.
Too often. And hey, I was going to say, saw that you're going to Eugene, Oregon, you should go to the fucking Yunts Festival. And okay, thanks. And they'll just keep going. So you don't want to foster fake relationships. I read them, and I let them know on the podcast, hey, thanks for the nice emails. And occasionally I'll get into a beef. When I check my emails early in the morning with a hangover, like, fuck you. Who do you think you are?
Does it wane on you, though, when you get... Because I'm imagining if you got, let's say, 50 emails in a day that were saying, I was going to do the bad thing or whatever it was, that's got to feel a bit of pressure on you that you got them through that there's a... Not an accountability, I suppose that's the wrong word, but there's a... You're providing something.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Does that ever wane on you?
Sometimes when it's come to fruition, where that person did kill themselves, and there's a few times.
And I suppose being disconnected from them in that way means that it can hurt less, or at least means that you.
Well, yeah. Sometimes you're closer to the people. Yeah, that's not a random person. I've met that person. I've talked to them right up until the minute they actually killed themselves. Yeah.
And at the moment, then it feels like are you trying to narrow down your base of fans to just the hardcore ones, or is it you would like to continue to expand it, or is it if you're one?
I don't. It's not an issue. It's not something I can control. But I don't go out of my way to find new fans. If you find me, you find me.
How do you feel?
I'm not in the public eye.
Yeah.
If you know about me, someone turns you on to me, you like me, I'm glad to have you. But
you can walk down the street and no one, or most of the time, no one stops you.
Yeah, that's the repeating joke is I'm only famous on the night of my show, within 100 yards of my show, for an hour before and after the show, and otherwise, that's it.
I always say to people, name dropping only works when you know the name.
Yeah, I love that when people go, hey, you gotta meet this guy. He's a famous comedian. Oh, really? You're famous? Well, no, not if you have to ask.
You shouldn't have to say it, no.
Yeah.
So do you mind if someone pirates or puts up some of your stuff online so that, more people can discover it?
No, I encourage stealing if it's a product I've already put out. If I've recorded a special, I don't give a shit if you steal it. Steal it, share it. It's just don't film shit I'm doing now. Wait till I film it and put it out, and then do whatever you want.
Yeah, there'll be a commercial release. I tell you, I've got the last quick fire questions for you.
Sure.
Because we're just about to wrap up. So these are quick fire for me. You answer them however you want to answer them. What's the best show you've ever seen?
See, superlatives at this point, like the best show I've ever seen.
It can be like a TV thing or a stand-up special. It can be.
I'm just pulling stuff out of my ass. Otto and George at the Chicago Comedy Festival, just breaking himself down. He's a puppet act. It was really filthy. He died a few years ago, but he was in front of all of industry at the Chicago Comedy Festival, and the puppet is yelling at him. Which all these things that all of industry knows about him. Shut the fuck up. You're not funny. You're a crack addict and you don't show up for gigs. You think they're going to fucking book you because you're having a good night here? They know you fucking smoke crack. You don't show up for gigs. And I literally falling out of my seat in a theater, fucking dying laughing. But I'm sure there's a million stories like that. Brian Holtzman's fucking meltdowns.
Is that because you have? I have a similar one. If you do as well, like the voice in your head that does that the whole time, where they're like, they're never going to book you again after that performance.
But that's shit that I would like. I'm on stage and I can't stop myself from saying. And even Hedberg would have that. He couldn't not comment on how. All right, that joke didn't work. But I bet I can win him back. But when you have it coming through a fucking puppet, when the puppet is actually that voice in your head, it was hilarious. Especially how like hardcore true it was.
Yeah. What do you think are the biggest? What's the biggest mistake you've ever made, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, see, these are the worst and the best and the.
Well, no, the
worst mistake I ever made. Fuck, I don't know if I've made one.
You can think like they weren't mistakes because you learned from them, kind of thing. If that's.
Yeah, these are email questions.
Okay.
This is where you go, all right, and then I sit around and have a few drinks, and oh, fuck. But
okay. What? Well, I'm going to rephrase this one then, so it's not an email question. But if you could change a thing or one thing about the comedy industry, what would it be?
Oh, that'd be a lot. The comedy industry, comedy clubs themselves. Like in the 80s when the whole the formula started. There's a 15-minute opener, and then there's a 30-minute middle act, and then there's a 45 to an hour headliner. You go to towns where they don't have a pool of enough comics, but they'll still use this, so people will know not to show up until the headliner, because there's no law that says you have to have that amount of time and that allotment. And in the States, that's one thing I'd do, is take the UK Canada model where you have the better guy first and then put the newest act in the middle for a shorter amount of time, where we put up the fucking worst guy first.
Okay. That worries me. I went to New York in January and I was on opening for a lot. I had no idea. I thought that's going really well, because over here you put the sort of solid opener and then the break, and then there's like sort of the things there. So and
that's why like guys like Hedberg, when he started as an MC, like he's hilarious, but he's not a guy who's going to go any birthday parties here and all that shit that they doing announcements. You can't have a Hedberg doing announcements. You have to have a guy that has hosting abilities, and they put too little effort into that. But that's nothing I'm involved with.
Last question: if you could go back to yourself before your first gig and give yourself one bit of advice, what would it be?
I would shut the fuck up. I would not give me any advice, because it was that pure innocence and lack of self-awareness that got me to where I was. Because like everyone, I sucked shit when I started. I don't want to talk to future me, because then I wouldn't spend that many years being a fucking horrible piece of shit comic, just saying dumb things because I thought they'd get laughs and have no point of view. I would just let him go. Let the kid go. Let him grow into his own.
You'd watch him and go, "You're fucking awful."
Yeah, I wouldn't even talk to me after a show.
Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks.
Party time. Party time. Party time. Party time. Drink your drinks and eat your eats. It's party time. Laugh your laughs and eat your eats. It's party time. Smile your smiles and blue your blues. It's party time. Dance your dance and shoe your shoes. It's party time. Howl your howls and suck your socks. It's party time. Yeah. Oh baby, grab your craps and fuck your fucks. It's party time. Grab your craps and fuck your fucks. It's party time. Everybody, grab your craps and fuck your fucks. It's party time. One more. party time. Hey, party time. Yeah. Party time.
Blue Apron it.
It's a better way to cook than that whole rat turd thing. I bet he cuts that out.